Hi everyone and welcome to French Watch Collector. Today on the bench we have a very special watch and actually a wonderful watch inside. You will see a bit later. It's a Nicolet watch. You can see it's a chronograph. I got this watch from one of the followers from the channel to service his grandfather watch actually. The watch we see has a couple of issues. Beautiful clasp on it with like this leather band. Can see some mark on the back, and actually it's a full gold case. And yeah, when I touch a watch and when I push the pusher on a watch, you can feel immediately the quality of the movement inside. Sometimes on some of the pushers, so I'm really looking forward to see what's inside this watch. But yeah, it looks quite nice, and it's quite a big size as well. Watch is for a vintage one. Can see yeah, everything is working when I change the hour. Gonna check as well if the chronograph is working, and you can see there behind the mark from for a full gold case. Just gonna start the chrono. Yeah, chronograph is starting. Gonna see if the minute hand is moving. Oh yeah, wow, the minute hand moved around 15 seconds. That's not normal. Look again there. Oh, you see, it just jumped there around 15 seconds. Yeah, that's not good. Let's check if we can reset the chrono. Yeah, reset function is fine. The crystal as well need a good polish. And you can see there when I put it on a time grapher, the result is terrible with an amplitude of 165, bit error of 4.2, is losing 137 seconds a day. So yeah, the watch definitely need a good service. And you see like there is a couple of things that's not working properly as well on this watch. So yeah, there is some work to do. Gonna open the case back with a blade and see what we can find inside. Very gently lifting the case back. Wow, look at this movement. Beautiful movement. See inside Charles Nicolet, Tremelman, that's a brand actually, the historic brand of the Nicolet watch. And look at this caliber, how beautiful it is, the color. The parts, I love the shape of the springs as well on this vintage chronograph. Just gonna open the front first and lift this crystal. Just going to remove the hand there with a Presto tool. I put down below in the description as well some of the tools that I use in this video. So, but if you have any question, don't hesitate to put it down in the comments. I will be very happy to answer to some of your questions, like regarding the tools or anything else on the videos. That's will be a pleasure to answer to your question. Just remove like the sub counter hands there, the minute and the second hand, and like on many of these chronograph actually the movement is coming from the front, from the dial side. Just gonna release the winding stem there. And I should be able to push the movement out of the case. Yeah, there we go, perfect. You can see the case as well, fully gold. Obviously, you feel the weight, quite heavier than a steel watch. Just releasing the dial fit screw there. Yeah, just notice something, like it's on the dial, you will have 18 joules. But actually on the movement is written 17 joules. That's a strange thing. Let's just remove there the hour wheel to get access to the cannon pinion. Just remove the cannon pinion with a Presto tool here. And now I'm just gonna release the power, which is stored inside the main spring. And I can see actually it's written 18 joules, it's not a 17 joules. It's true that most of the movement we have 17 joules, but yeah, this one is 18 joules. Just waiting for the power to be fully gone when the balance wheel will stop there. There we go, perfect. Power is fully gone out of the watch. And you see we have this shock setting on the watch, which is actually the first time I see this type of shock setting. It's probably an early version. of a shock setting, yeah, compared to like the Keith system. So yeah, I would think that this watch is probably like in around mid 40s or in the 40s for sure. When I see the shock system and the age of the watch, I'm gonna see as well which caliber is written on there. You see the R sign. This is a Valjoux. This is a Valjoux sign, which is just right next to the balance wheel there. Just gonna leave the balance wheel, and you can see there. That's a R. That's a Valjoux, and this is actually a Valjoux 22. Yeah, that's the first time I'm working on a Valjoux 22. Yeah, beautiful caliber. Just gonna release now the palette for. You see there is still a bit of power inside the watch, so some friction holding the power. And I'm starting now to disassemble the chronograph movement. And what I like to do always on chronograph movement is to remove all the springs first, or most of the springs that I can remove, to release the tension. Like I did with the mainspring, I release the tension in the mainspring and the power, if you want, from the watch. Same thing on the chronograph. I just want to remove all the power inside the chronograph by removing all the springs and the tension. And as well as always on a chronograph, you will see I will place back all the screws that I remove. I will put them back on the main plate just to make sure I don't mix them up when I put the parts and the watch back together. And you see this huge lever there with a hook at the end that come on the column wheel. So this is a column wheel chronograph. You see that's a part with all these teeth on it. Just need to release the screw to be able to lift there. There we go, this entire part. Well, don't really like to do that with a screwdriver, but this was very, very tight. Again, some springs underneath, giving some tension. You see on the brake, on his small wheel there to drive the minute wheel of the chronograph. The movement is not in bad condition. Obviously, you see some scratches. It's a bit dirty, but not too bad for a watch from this age. I don't know when was the last service of the watch. And actually, the owner of the watch told me that, yeah, I was a watch of this grandfather. And yeah, he probably did not do a service for a very long time. And as the watch was working, but you can see on the time grapher, it was not really accurate. And yeah, the power reserve was pretty poor on the watch. So for sure, if it was some friction and if it was not maintained or serviced properly during the years, yeah, obviously that play a huge role on your watch not running properly or having a bad power reserve. Just removing, you see there, the chronograph driving wheel. And now that I remove all the parts on the top from the chronograph mechanism, just gonna focus what's underneath. First by removing the screws of this big 3/4 plate there. I'm lifting it up very gently. There you go, now it's fully loose. Should be able to lift it up. Yes, we can see underneath couple of parts under the bridge that we'll disassemble later, and the train of wheel. And obviously there we have the barrel with the mainspring inside. Just removing now the rest of the train of wheel, and you can see it's a link between the barrel where we have the power to the pallet fork, and after the balance wheel that I just removed first. So that's the purpose of the train of wheel, is to transmit the power through all these gears, these small gears, and finishing with this strange looking wheel, the escape wheel. Okay, so now we move to the dial side, and we're gonna disassemble the keyless work. You see this side of the watch is much simpler on this chronograph movement. Actually, you only have the keyless work, nothing else. No complication on this side, like no parts from the chronograph. Setting lever spring there. You can see a bit of a different design compared to what we are used to on a keyless work. Few more parts. And this is a yoke. You see that's actually held by a screw. Now the setting lever. And that's it. We have the last few parts from the watch that we just disassembled there. Again, this shock spring on the dial side that I need to disassemble to get everything clean inside. Obviously, all the parts will go inside the cleaning machine to be fully clean, remove any dirt or grease that dried up, to have the parts as clean as possible. Taking the jewels, again, to remove any dried up oils inside the jewels, which are, if you want, the pivot points for many of the parts, and mainly the train of wheels. Gonna do this obviously on all the parts with jewels. Placing back the balance wheel, just a safe place to keep it during cleaning as always, because we don't want to damage this very fragile air spring, which is like this circular spring you can see just underneath, like in between. And now I'm disassembling all the parts which are underneath, like the bridge. So we have the crown wheel there, held in place by two little screws. And you can see on the other side as well, we have a spring with a part which is a click that we are going to disassemble. You can see some old grease underneath. So all of that we get clean inside the cleaning machine. And here I remove the click. I will just leave the spring. No need to disassemble the spring there. There we go. Again, pegging the jewels, cleaning everything. Perfect. Just going to open the barrel assembly now and see which type of spring we are finding inside. Oh, that's an old spring. So that says a lot from when the watch was serviced for the last time. You see this type of, this color of spring, and the shape is very, very old. And actually it was broken. It was a broken piece inside. It was still working, but yeah, broken piece. So I just do a quick polish on a pivot point from the train of wheel again, just to make it as clean as possible before putting it in a cleaning machine, to remove any dried up oil or grease. And all these parts, you see now, we go in these small baskets. And you see on the chronograph, it's a little bit more parts. And that will go inside the cleaning machine for all the parts to be as clean as possible and ready to be reassembled. Okay, so the cleaning, we are going to do it in 3 stages. First, a cleaning stage, and we will have 2 wrenches stages as well, and we finish by drying the parts. I would like to use this opportunity to tell you that I have a Patreon page. If you want to support the channel, you can find the link down below in the description. And I would like to thank Philips, Roger, Matt, Christian, David, Shelby, Jan, Ruud, Christian, Cornet, Alan, David, Ted, Tony, Michael, Steven, John, Tim, and Gregory. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting the channel. That means a lot to me. And if you want to join the group, support the channel, and it will help me to put better content out there. Yeah, like I said, you can find the link on my Patreon page in the description. And I will be really happy to count you as a supporter of the channel. And if you did not subscribe to the channel as well, you can click on the subscribe button down below. Click on a thumbs up if you like the video. It will help promote the video to more viewers and more watch lovers like yourself. And this will help as well to grow the channel. So thanks in advance to subscribe and click on a blue thumbs up. Just doing now a gentle polish of the crystal. It was a bit scratched, so I drew a light polish. And I'm going to do ultrasonic cleaning on the part from the case And actually, if you want to buy this ultrasonic machine, I will put a link down below in the description with a discount code as well. It's working very well. It's not so expensive for ultrasonic machine. So if you want one, this one is a great one. Just gonna do an epilam treatment now on a couple of parts. You see on a pallet fork, escape wheel, and the jewels from the balance wheel. This will help the oil that I will put a bit later to be retained on the surface a bit more easily if you want with the treatment that I've just done in epilam. Just gonna dry the part. Just gonna remove the epilam from the pivot point of the escape and the pallet fork. And I'm just gonna reassemble this shock setting there, which is a bit different compared to what we found, like I said. And you see, I did not put any oil on the jewels yet. I'm just gonna do it because I found it very difficult to put a drop of oil and put the jewels. So I'm just gonna do it with my automatic oiler. Just placing the jewel now. Just checking everything is working. Yeah, that looks good. It's balancing and it's beating very nicely. And for this, I'm going to disassemble the balance wheel, just removing the wheel to get access, if you want, for the jewel underneath. Same thing on this side, just going to remove. And you see there, I'm just using my automatic oiler to put a drop of 9010 oil inside the jewel here. Same thing on the other side. And now we'll have both sides of the balance, which is fully clean and fully oiled. Just need to reassemble now the balance wheel. There we go, perfect. Just screwing down there. Okay, so now we're gonna put a brand new, you remember the spring, the main spring was old and broken. So just find a brand new one for Valjoux 22. You see the difference in color? Like the new one, they looks like a steel color, and the other one like, yeah, it's actually very nice, the old one, the color, like kind of blue copper color. Placing back the barrel arbor inside. Here we go. Now I'm just gonna close the barrel assembly using this tool. Just gonna press it down to close the lid. And what I like to do afterwards is oil the barrel arbor there with my automatic oiler on both sides, obviously. Okay, so first we're gonna reassemble, you remember, the parts under this plate. So I'm gonna reassemble the click, put a drop of oil there to have some lubrication. And the click. You're gonna do the same thing after to reassemble the crown wheel on the other side. Remember, there we had a crown wheel. Again, putting a couple of drops to make sure it slides on the plate and the friction is reduced to a minimum. And there we kept in place with the 2 tiny screws. Okay, so now we can start to reassemble the based caliber, if you want, the base movement without a complication, just a part of the watch that gives the time. So put the barrel assembly, and I'm putting back the train of wheel. And you can see there the Valjoux 22, actually, like I said at the beginning, has quite an old caliber. It started in 1914 until 1974. That's a huge period of production for a caliber. Obviously, it's one of with the Valjoux 23 as well that was used in many watch, even in some Patek Philippe. So they are great caliber, and as well, like I said, this column wheel mechanism, like this Valjoux 22 and 23, the feel of when you push pushers from this column wheel mechanism are so great. Very nice caliber. And like I said, this one is, I think, is probably around with this shock setting, which is kind of, I guess, an early shock setting, probably dating around 1940s. So this is quite an old watch, old caliber, and quite in good state for the age of this caliber. No sign of rust. Obviously, some sign of people that worked on the watch before. You see some tiny scratches, but quite in good condition for, like, this watch is almost 80 years old probably. Just re-oiling everything now that the train of wheel is in place. I'm gonna oil all the jewels, like all the pivot points, again to reduce the friction. Gonna do the same thing now on the dial side. See me oiling the jewels. And now we can assemble the keyless work. Starting with the winding pinion and the clutch gear. Okay. And this Nicolet watch as well, it's a brand that made a lot of chronograph. Actually, they were like producing a lot of chronograph with third parties, if you want, movement. They were not producing their own movement. And the watch, actually, the brand started in 1970s as well, the same as the Valjoux 22. And unfortunately, again, it is another brand that disappeared in the 60s, 70s years with the quartz crisis. But they made a lot of very nice vintage chronograph, and you can see this one. It's a very quite nice quality chronograph with a full gold case and a caliber for the era, and still today, which is a great chronograph caliber, the Valjoux 22. They were producing quite some nice chronograph for the era. So if you can, and these watches are not that cheap as well. They are like a few thousand euro. So it's if you can find a nice old Nicolet watch, probably has a nice caliber inside, and it looks quality to me. Obviously, if you know more about the brand, if you want to share your knowledge about this brand and this type of watch, please, again, feel free down below in a comment. We'd be really happy, like, if you can share your knowledge with the community about the movement or the case, about anything else. Just put it down below in a comment as well. Just putting back now the cannon pinion, which is friction mounted, so just need to press it. There we go, in position. The minute wheel and the last few parts from the keyless work with the setting lever spring there. Just secure it with a screw. There we go, now it's just fully in position. And this plate, which is keeping everything in position underneath. Just greasing there, you see me using a blue grease. See a lot of tension in between the parts there. And it looks good, like the keyless work looking like he's doing the job. Perfect. Okay, I'm just gonna go back to the other side, put the palette fork. This is a beautiful perlage as well, which has this round finish under the balance wheel. I love it. Just, here we go, finding the pivot point there, perfect. putting a bit of a whine on the watch just to put some power. Gonna check if the pallet fork is clicking and if the power is coming to the pallet fork. Yeah, click, click, perfect. So power is coming there. Should be able to put now the balance wheel. See underneath, I will just see the impulse joules just underneath there. That will come inside the fork there. That's why we make it always with a tiny bit of rotation, just to bring it inside the fork. Oh, it looks like you want to move. Yes, perfect. The caliber is running. Great news. Just gonna secure it now with a screw, and we have the base movement, which is fully working, and you can see now it looks like it's beating very nicely. We see at the end the type of results we are getting on a time grapher. Just putting the spring there that will keep some tension on a chronograph wheel. I will explain a bit later why we need to put a bit of tension there. Put a bit of oil when we're going to put the column wheel, just again to make sure it's nicely lubricated. The screw, there we go. And now I'm just going to grease like most of the teeth, like again, just to make sure when we operate the chronograph, because this is the brain of the chronograph, it runs smoothly. And you can see there's this small hand there underneath the chronograph wheel. That's what moves the minute hand from the chronograph. And you remember, it was jumping at 15 seconds. And actually this end should be aligned, you see in this window. And yeah, that's what I've done. I just change the angle of this little hand underneath. And hopefully we'll make the minute hand from the chronograph change around the 12 o'clock position. So we'll see later on when we'll test the chronograph. Okay, I'm putting the chronograph bridge there, which is keeping in place the two wheels from the chronograph, center chronograph and the minute wheel from the chronograph. Perfect. And now we're gonna reassemble all the parts from the chronograph, and basically we're just starting the reverse order that we have done during the disassembly, more or less. Putting the parts, putting the springs after. So you see like these parts, which is this wheel that will connect to the minute wheel just to make the jump. 12 o'clock, the famous jump, like I was just talking about. And you see many of these screws have a shoulder on it, and it's actually the pivot point for the parts. So that's why you will see me oiling a lot of the screws. And that's why as well, when you disassemble the watch, you don't want to mix the screws because there are very, very tiny differences in some of the screws with these shoulders. Some have shoulders, so doesn't have shoulders. Some have deeper, shallower shoulders. So yeah, you don't want to mix all these screws because obviously they will damage, or it will actually prevent the watch from working properly. Another spring there you see on the minute wheel has to give the nice jump of the minute like hands. So spring for the column wheel. Just gonna arm the spring now. There we go, perfect. And this is a hammer that will come and reset the watch when we'll hit the hard cam, which is on the minute and chronograph wheel. And we have this long operating lever there that connects the pushers to the column wheel. You see with this hook there. Put it in position. Again, you see another screw with a shoulder that need to be oiled, which is acting as a pivot point there for this long operating lever. Placing another spring there that comes on this at the end with the hook of this operating lever again, just to make sure it stay. I'm arming this there, perfect. See, stay in contact with the column wheel. Another strange shape. You see the shape of this spring. I love this spring on this chronograph movement. You see as well they all have beveled edges. The finish is so nice. Just checking, yeah, you can see there. Operating lever is doing the job on the column wheel. Placing like this wheel, which is, you see, friction mounted. So we'll press it in position. And this wheel is directly linked to the wheel underneath in a train of wheel. And that's what will drive the chronograph mechanism basically. Now I'm putting what we call the clutch. So it's like on your car, it will engage and disengage the chronograph movement. And you see these two wheels are always in contact and always turning. And the clutch will come and engage or disengage to make the chronograph movement run. Just checking there, tack, you see it engage, the chronograph is running in the center. Disengage is stop, and now gonna push, it's a bit hard, on a reset button there, and there we go. You see the hammer hitting the center wheel and resetting everything. You see the height there of the wheel, it was not perfectly at the same height, so I'm just gonna push it to make sure it's at the same height as the clutch. And now you see the teeth there, that's the teeth between the clutch and the chronograph driving wheel. Need to be engaged about 75% between each teeth. Looks good on this side. Gonna check now with the chronograph, with the small teeth there, and you can see the engagement is about 25-50% of the teeth is covered by the big one. So we need to adjust that because we want, like I said, around 75%. You can see there. Yeah, it's about, I would say, between 25 and 50%. So for this on the chronograph mechanism, we have a couple of screws that are used to adjust this engagement between all the teeth. And this is like this screw there. Yeah, this one. I just need to turn it ever so slightly. And you see now the engagement is deeper. And yeah, it's about 75% between like the two wheels there. That's what you want on a chronograph. Okay, so now the chronograph is the setting is proper. I'm gonna put our wheel, the spring there. We can put this dial. Only shame on this dial, there is a big scratch in the middle. You actually don't see it that much when you have the crystal in position. Just secure with the dial free screw there. Did not do anything on the dial. I just do a light clean there and removing any marks or any dust particle on the dial. I can place it back in the case. Shiny case after a good cleaning in the ultrasonic machine as well. Good. Placing back the winding stem. Placing back the screw as well, that will keep the movement in position. Just gonna refit the crystal. So for this I use my press. Just gonna press it down ever so slightly. That will bend the crystal and reduce the diameter, if you want, of the crystal. And for this I can bring the ring around and release the crystal, and it will take place inside the ring. There we go, perfect. Just do a quick polish on the hand because they were like a bit tarnished. There was like, not, like obviously they are scratched, but you can see on the surface like a bit of light corrosion or tarnish on the hands. So I just do a quick polish just to make sure they look nice on the watch. Same thing on the small hands as well. And the second hand from the chronograph. Just a nice gentle polish on all these hands. And now I can place it back on the dial. Obviously first putting the hour and minute hand, and after we're gonna put all the hand from the chronograph. Same thing every time. Just place it in position. Obviously everything aligned to the 12 o'clock position. And press it with my Orotech tool there. Same thing on the chronograph hand. Just gonna align it to 12, gonna press it in position. Same thing with the minute hand there. And the last one, the small sub-second hand, which is always running from the timekeeping and not the chronograph. And I can place back the crystal and close the watch. Gonna demagnetize the watch before we put it on a time grapher and see how well it runs. But first, I would like to tell you that I have my own website. You can find a link down below in the description, and you can find some history on the channel. You can go there as well. I'm selling some, see the watch that I'm selling online, some of the watch that has been restored on the channel. So if you want to buy a watch, and as well, like this watch as well, you can contact me and I can service or restore one of your watch. You can find the contact information on the website, and I will be very happy to help you. Just checking now the chronograph, if it's running properly. Let's check if the minute hand is moving at 12 o'clock. Yes, perfect. So we fix the issue, and you see the chronograph running very nicely. Beautiful gold case. Dial is in quite good condition and a great caliber inside. Very happy with this watch, and the owner will be very proud of the watch from his grandfather. He can wear it. Obviously, it's a vintage watch, so you need to be careful with these beautiful old ladies. And let's check the reset. Yeah, perfect. The reset back to 0. And you can see on the time grapher the amplitude around 280, and the watch, yeah, is just losing few seconds a day. The bit error is tiny bit high. I can adjust it to get it below 1. But again, a beautiful old watch which is running with a nice result on a time grapher. So I hope you like this restoration, and I see you for my next project. Bye bye.